Can I use my IRA money to invest in real estate? Can I use my IRA money to invest in real estate? Well, first of all, if you don't know what an IRA stands for, that means Individual Retirement Account. So welcome back. In this episode, I'm going to answer your question, can I use my IRA money to invest in real estate? Now, my name is Ted Thomas, and for the past 30 years, I've been teaching people and guiding and mentoring people on how to invest in tax lien certificates and tax deeds. Today, I'm going to show you a little bit about how to do that with an individual retirement account. Now, we're really going to talk about a business that's highly lucrative for investors and a way to make profits that very few people know about. So you're going to discover in this program the same thing that I did years ago when I discovered tax lien certificates and found out I could buy low at 5 cents, 10 cents on the dollar. At that point in time, I completely changed my investment strategy. Why? Because real estate goes up and down, just like the markets go up and down, the stock market and also the metals market and so on. I wanted to get a business that was kind of flatline, that I always knew where I could make money, and that certainly is tax lien certificates. So stay tuned with me on this video. I'm going to give you a gift when I finish, and I'll tell you a little bit about that gift as we go along. But also at the end of the video, I'm going to explain to you the big mistakes that investors make that you want to make sure to avoid those, because they're making this mistake at an auction, and you don't want to do that if you're headed for a tax auction. So stay tuned. I'm going to come right back. Hi, I'm Ted Thomas. We're going to talk about individual retirement accounts. Now, this is pretty confusing for a lot of people the first time they hear about it, and that's simply because these weren't invented just by a group of people and let the world know about it. These were invented especially by savings and loan associations, which were banks in those days, and by insurance companies. And basically what they were trying to do is they were trying to get more deposits. They wanted to get more deposits from the little guy. In other words, someone that would put in $1,500, $2,000, $5,000 a year. They wanted to get those accounts. So what they did is they lobbied the Congress of the United States and said, look, let's get people putting money into their own account. The big problem, of course, has always been, you probably are one of the people worried about it yourself, Social Security. Is they going to give you enough money to retire? Well, of course not. You're not going to get anywhere near the money you need to retire. So the insurance companies and the savings and loans at that time took advantage of that and went to the Congress and said, look, let's get people investing in their own individual retirement account. So today, instead of saying individual retirement account, we abbreviate everything. So it's called an IRA account. So the banks, they got that legislation passed. And when it passed, everybody said, wow, I can earn money, put that money in the bank, and I can take a tax deduction. Well, I'm going to tell you, America's built on tax deduction. It doesn't matter whether it's you or me or the richest guy in the world, who's Jeff Bezos. How do they do it? They take tax deductions. So that's what an IRA is. It allows you to legally and ethically take a tax deduction on money you put in the bank. All right, so let's keep in mind who began this whole trend. It was the banks, and at that time they called them the savings and loan. All right, now the insurance companies had to hire lobbyists and people to do this, to get all the senators and the congressmen to understand what was going on. So it took a little while before they passed this legislation, but once it did, the whole business took off. Now, everyone knows that Social Security isn't going to be good for them. It's going to be, you're going to get your check. They'll guarantee that, I'm sure. However, it's not going to be big enough. So IRA accounts, whether it's a traditional IRA account or it's an IRA account, which we're going to call a Roth IRA, named after a senator from Connecticut. If you have a Roth IRA, you can put your money in, pay your taxes then, but then you don't have to pay taxes for the life of that IRA. So this particular episode is all about individual retirement accounts and how to do that with real estate. Now, if you can put real estate into a Roth IRA, for example, and you put it in and it costs you, say, $20,000 and it's worth $100,000, well, all that profit later on, between what you paid and the margin of what you sell it, is going to be tax-free. So you really want to tune into these Roth IRAs and the traditional IRA. All right, so the keys to these accounts are they're made by individuals, okay? Now, when you make this Roth IRA, you need to have an individual self-directed. Now write that word down. Self-directed IRA. Now the banks and the savings and loans and the insurance companies are going to say that they give you a self-directed, but their self-directed account only allows you to buy bank products or buy products the insurance company could sell. So what does insurance sell? They sell insurance. So you're just going to keep stacking the insurance policies in there? No, I don't think so. Are you going to keep putting money in the bank? Well, yes, you probably will, but you want to be able to put real estate, you want to be able to put metals. These accounts will take anything you want. So at the time, when they created all this, everybody was confused, and they're still confused. So you're going to need to do this on your own. You need to learn about a custodian or someone that handles those accounts. Now, I'm not an attorney, I'm not a CPA, and I'm not a person that's trying to sell you on individual retirement accounts. The IRA account is for your benefit. So this whole process works very, very well, but you need to think in terms of a self-directed IRA. That means you're going to handle your own account. So I want you to imagine putting money in an individual retirement account, and let's say you put $20,000 in, and then in 10 years, that was a piece of real estate and it's worth $200,000. Well, if you put it in for 20 and you sell it for $200,000 within your IRA, I can tell you right now, there's not going to be any tax on it. The rest of the world is going to pay 25 to 50% tax. So this is a way that you can legally and ethically not have to pay big taxes. All right, now the big problem is no one mentions that you can do real estate in an IRA account. All right, so you need to learn about this, and you need to be talking with custodians and people that will hold on to this money and be a trustee for you. You need to have people that understand it. So this, you don't want to just take your gun out of the holster and start shooting. You want to start learning about what this is. It's not complicated. It's very easy. It just was all created by the banks, which at that time were called savings and loans, and by the different insurance companies. So there's nothing negative here. Everything is really super positive. Now, as I said earlier, I'm not a CPA. I'm not a financial planner. I'm not an attorney. I'm not teaching you from that perspective, but I am teaching you from a prepared investor's perspective, because basically that's what I've been doing for the last 30 years. I've been buying tax lien certificates, tax deeds, and teaching people like yourself to do it. You must have a separate custodian, a separate party handling this whole thing for you. All right, now real estate, in my opinion, is a good investment for your IRA. Now that doesn't mean you couldn't put other investments in there, but I'm a specialist on real estate. And so what I teach people to do, and I changed my whole portfolio, I stopped doing regular real estate because I could buy at tax auctions and buy for properties for 5 and 10, 20 cents on the dollar. Now, if I bought those within a Roth IRA, any money I make in the future is going to be tax exempt. Now, folks, when you can make money in an IRA account and not pay taxes, it's the same thing as earning 25 to 50% extra dollars. So I'm just a prepared investor is how you're learning this today. You're not learning it from an IRA expert. You're not learning it from a CPA. You're learning it from a person that's actually doing this. Now, the episode that we're in today is, can I use my IRA to invest in real estate? That's the question we're answering. And the answer is definitely yes. When I learned about it, I changed my whole investment portfolio. Now, I've been around for 30 years in this business. Before that, I was in regular real estate, but there's too much up and down, too much recessions, too many booms. And so what happens, real estate will recede, then you'll come to a boom, then it'll recede. I wanted to be in real estate that was flat lined and went the same all the time. And tax liens and tax defaulted properties are the same all the time. All right, so my perspective is all from what an investor would want to do. So I don't have the perspective of selling you an IRA. I'm not an attorney trying to get you to buy something else. So if you can get passive investments, which would be tax lien certificates, you can buy those in traditional, or you can buy those in a Roth IRA. Now, the same thing with the properties at auction. If you buy the property at auction in a traditional IRA, that's okay. When you sell it, you're going to have to pay some taxes. All right, but if you bought it within the confines of the Roth IRA, the whole ballgame changes because you won't have to pay taxes on the sale. Now, I want you to think about my example. I mentioned it earlier. Let's say you go to the auction and there's a $200,000 property. You're trying to buy it. So you buy it for 20 cents on the dollar. All right, 20 cents on the dollar means you spent about $40,000. All right, yes, when you go into the IRA, you're going to have to pay some tax on that $40,000. However, what if you sell that property a year or 2 or 5 down the road and you sell it for the $200,000? Well, the difference between the $40,000 and the $200,000 is your margin of profit. But you don't have to pay taxes on your margin of profit. So if your margin of profit was $160,000, my goodness, not to pay taxes would be amazing. But if you did have to pay taxes, you're going to have to pay in the lowest brackets 25% of that to the Uncle Sam, and who knows what to the state. All right, same situation in any other investment. You're going to have to pay taxes. But in a Roth IRA, you're not going to have to pay any taxes. Now, look, I'm not an expert on that, but I am an expert enough to tell you that you need to do that. Properties purchased at auction, I have dozens of clients that buy in Roth IRAs, and they might only invest $10,000 or $15,000, but when they sell out for $60,000 and $80,000, they don't have to pay taxes. Let me tell you, when you can make that kind of money and not pay taxes, you're going to get wealthy very, very quickly. Very quickly. You want to take training from a professional, whether you're doing tax liens or deeds, or you're going to get a company to handle all this. Outside of this video, I will have other videos about IRA, and there'll be traditional and Roth IRAs. You probably want to watch all of those videos, and then you want to start doing your own research and find a company that does that. All right, now the business of tax liens and tax deeds is perfect for the average person. Why? Because it's easy to learn. You don't have to have big investment money to get started, but you can end up being very, very wealthy, especially if you use some of these techniques that I'm mentioning today. Now, I'm about to button it up, but before I do that, I'm going to answer 2 questions, and then I'll tell you how to avoid those big mistakes. Okay, so the question is, why don't people pay your taxes? So I assume the question means, why don't they pay your property tax? All right, now there's a lot of reasons not to pay property tax. What if you were sick and you didn't have enough money? You were paying the doctor. So there's a good reason. All right, what if you had kids that were sick and you were paying the hospital or paying a doctor? There's another good reason. What if you had just lost your job? You don't have money for taxes. So if you're in a state that sells tax lien certificates, you can clap your hands because they're benevolent. They're not going to throw you out of the property, but they're going to issue a tax certificate. All right, if you're in a tax defaulted state, you better find someone that's going to give you the money because they're going to confiscate your property. But there's lots of reasons people don't pay. Sometimes people pass away and their heirs don't even know the taxes are due. So things like that happen. The question was, do you have to talk to the property owner? The answer is no, you don't have to do that. The local government will do all that for you. The challenge is they're slow to do that, so you just have to wait for them to get all that done. But basically, if you're buying tax lien certificates, 97% of those certificates will pay you all of your money back within 24 months. With tax defaulted property, you're going to get the deed to the property right away, so more than likely they'll already be out of the property. If they're still in the property, you would not communicate with them. You would hire the sheriff to evict them. Okay, so with that said, I have a nice program for you guys, and it's a gift from me. It's called the Safe Haven. It'll tell you about tax lien certificate, all the secrets, and if you want to learn about tax deeds and how to buy these properties for 60, 70, and 80% discounts, well, I'll teach you about tax deeds also. So both of those are available. It's free, and you can just go below me, and when you register, you'll get that course absolutely free. It's going to be my gift to you, and I do want to mention there's 2 big mistakes that people make at these auctions, and the big mistake number 1 is that they don't look at the property. Now, I'm going to tell you, don't buy properties you haven't looked at. Why not? What if there was a hurricane? What if there was a windstorm? What if there was a flood? What if the place had burned down? I could go on and on. You're getting the idea. That could have happened, and you don't know it, and the tax collector doesn't know it. So when you buy at that auction, they don't say you're going to give any money back. They say buyer beware. So you need to beware and make sure you looked at the property. The other big mistake is people get all excited at the auction, and they start buying properties that, number 1, they haven't looked at, and number 2, which is a big deal, they don't have an exit strategy. Folks, if you don't know what you're going to sell a property for, that's an exit strategy. If you don't know what you're going to sell it for goodness sake, don't buy it, because you'll just keep bidding until you win, and if you win, that's not going to do you a lot of good if you paid too much money. I'm Ted Thomas.